Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks, Matt, for the warm introduction. I don't know if you want to kick it off by explaining a little bit what we're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pooja.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Pooja, and so I recently started a new project called Tefra Labs, which is building a number of different large-scale human coordination mechanisms, so very relevant to the question of DAOs. In particular, right now, we're sort of starting by experimenting with an area that we're calling networked OKRs. So it's kind of the creating like a marketplace where people who have ideas about what is important to fund in an ecosystem can pair with people who have capital to fund those ideas and the people who want to work on those ideas. So that first project is called Radius. And yeah, I'm happy to share more about that later, but excited to chat with both of
Daphne?
you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Daphne. I'm a governor of Blue DAO. Our mission is to help inspire and empower women around the world to launch projects on the blockchain. And I'm also the co-founder of Key Week Labs, which is a product that was launched through a Blue Hacks program. Key Week is a decentralized asset store for 3D creators. And so our main mission there is to help accelerate game and metaverse creation and really put the hands back in the power of the people creating really high quality 3D assets that help to make games what they are and help to make them really interactive and fun. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk with both of you.
Yeah, same. My name is Juan. I'm part of the Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling Core Unit in Maker. I've been with the community for over 2 years, I think. And from the product point of view, we're building governance products, I guess. And yeah, it's been quite challenging in a lot of senses. So we're happy to share some of the learnings we've been going through. So I guess when you frame how you build a complex product from a life cycle perspective, you have different stages from discovering even before that what the problem is, then kind of like experimentation, MVP. So maybe we can start over there. I've heard great things about Blue Hacks. So maybe Daphne, you can tell us a bit more about how it works and what you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. So Blue Hacks is kind of the first step in what we call our Blue Builders program. And so our Builders program is meant to be an end-to-end ecosystem to help women ideate, launch, incubate venture scalable products on the blockchain. And so we recently just finished up our Blue Hacks program at ETH Bogota, where we had a lot of amazing projects there. Superseed was a finalist. And so, yeah, Superseed. So with Blue Hacks, our main focus is to be able to put these amazing teams together of talented builders from diverse backgrounds in terms of demographics, but in terms of skill set as well. And so the main thing that we're looking at is being able to find these teams that want to work together and that have this shared mission and these shared values that they want to solve a problem behind. And so when it comes to ideation and strategy, we lead sessions for our hackers to be able to come up with the general problem, the high level problem that they want to tackle, and then be able to dive deeper into that and validate their ideas at a hackathon where sponsors and judges and mentors can give them that direct feedback so that they can incorporate that into the product that they build and then create another amazing product to launch live.
Nice. Are these sessions in person or online? And how long are they? How much in detail do you go before you start experimenting?
Yeah, so generally a Blue Hacks program is an in-person week-long event, and it starts with, the preparation sessions. So the ideation and strategy sessions, like I mentioned, over the course of 2 or 3 days. And then we start to form teams and have those teams jump right into the hackathon. And I think Web3 Hackathon is a great place to learn, but also to kind of be thrown into this ring of fire with all these different technologies that you can integrate with, the sponsor bounties that are put up. And you really get a sense of how all these technologies interoperate with each other and how that can actually benefit the end product that you're creating. And so, yeah, it's mainly in person, but also there's a mixture of online sessions beforehand too.
Nice. And before we move, Pooja, I want you to speak a bit about Radius. I think that's a great product. So being a founder, can you maybe tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, for sure. About Radius in general. Yes. So so I'd say we're we're still definitely in the stage where we're trying about a bunch of different things, but kind of with probably similar mission to what both of you are trying to accomplish as well, right? I know, Juan, you also, with the SES, are interested in onboarding the next wave of developers into Web3 and making them really capable of generating a lot of value and building kind of the next frontier of projects that's really going to push the space forward. So that's kind of what we care about too at Radius. And I think there are many different things we're basically trying to accomplish. It's a little bit about onboarding and giving people opportunities that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise had if they were just interested in entering the space looking for a full-time job is kind of an intimidating prospect. You may not have the like protocol specific skills or the connections necessarily to find that first opportunity. So we think that there's kind of a space in between where like educational programs, grant types of opportunities or project-based funding to work on in an ecosystem and learn about it can help bridge some of that gap and then get people really ready to do the next tier of whatever it is, whether it's going to be trying to build a venture backable business or continue working on grant funded projects or maybe enter a company in the space full time, whatever it is, but just kind of like trying to be that bridge in between.
And in terms of going to the ideation, is it that the clients or the companies that they bring you the problem already, or is it like, hey, we need, I don't know, more like a specific position? Is it more projects? How does it work?
Yeah, so that is, and I was actually curious as well for Blue Hacks, kind of if there is sort of this pipeline of ideas that's coming from somewhere, because I think we all know in the space so many folks who are just extremely generative at coming up with, I think in the Ethereum ecosystem, obviously Vitalik is constantly doing this, and like the Filecoin in Protocol Labs ecosystem, Juan is constantly doing this. These sort of like people who just are so creative, really understand the protocols that they helped create, but also the communities that they're building and where there are gaps that people aren't really, they're able to take this like 30,000 foot view and see where there are opportunities for people to build. And it's not just people like that, but these ideas come from everywhere. And so I think it's actually, so in our case, yes, it is, like the organizations that we work with that are able to kind of see where are the gaps in their ecosystem, where they think there is an opportunity for someone to build something. But I think in general, what's really cool about kind of the more decentralized approach to product development is that you can actually start to decouple some of these things and make it easier and like lower the barrier to entry for people to develop complex products where they don't have to be responsible necessarily for coming up with the brilliant idea in addition to like how are you going to develop a particular solution or approach for that problem space and then implement it and all the way through. You can kind of like break each of these stages up and have different groups that are kind of contributing at each stage. So so I think that's pretty cool. And
nice. Yeah. And in terms of of any challenges that you might have seen coming up often, and I will also ask you, Daphne, about for everything that's ideation and going back to building an MVP. How are you approaching that? And what did we learn from that?
Yeah. So with the ideation, actually there have been a lot of learnings I think from I would say the non-Web3 world and how do people build successful products and businesses outside of Web3. And so there's actually a couple of really great books that we have been reading as a team and that establish some shared memes about how we think about experimentation and ideation and like really running very lightweight experiments to see if something is a good idea or not before investing a lot of energy in building it out fully. So actually one book that I recently finished is called Inspired by Marty Kagan. It's a great, have you read it? Yeah, it's great. It's a great book for anyone who wants to, who is a product manager or responsible for building products. And yeah, so, just some things like that, which I think are super applicable in our space too. And I think so often, I have seen it be the case a lot in Web3 because people are I've been in the space now for like 5 years, and it's just really interesting to see there's so much excitement and so much energy and so much open space where things need to be built that I think there is definitely something to be said for just going out and like trying to build it and seeing what happens. But I think sometimes that also leads to a lot of wasted time potentially, right? Or frustration if something isn't immediately taking off and running like lightweight experiments like the landing, building landing pages and seeing if anyone, like that's still relevant in our space and seeing if that resonates with the audience that you're trying to target. So we do that type of stuff too. What about you guys?
Yeah, to your earlier point on coming up with ideas and how actually energy intensive that can be. I think for us at Blue Hacks, we focus on getting our builders thinking about like the high level idea, like what do you want to solve in the world, like world hunger, financial independence. Like these are huge topics, but then we just break them up into groups and they start speed dating their ideas, and so you're able to hear different perspectives of people in the group in terms of how they would tackle that problem. And so, yeah, I think for us, it is incredibly empowering to come up with your own idea, but I think it does need to come with a little bit of teamwork because that's extremely energy intensive. But no, I love all the work that you're doing, and I think there's a lot of synergy there. When it comes to like some of the challenges that we're seeing in terms of product development with Blue DAO and our like hacker teams, I think a lot of it is the stigma when it comes to product development in Web3. A lot of people think that you have to be a developer or you have to be technical to build products. And a lot of our work is geared towards erasing that myth. There's a lot of career paths, like you were talking about earlier in Web3, that people just don't know about. And so we're trying to give a bit more transparency to those career paths and actually, show people that, a diverse team of marketers, designers, developers, music creatives, like anyone can build these amazing products together.
Are there any specific outcomes in terms of, materials, documents that you like help them build in order to move to the next steps?
So the further end of the Blue Builders program are our like incubator and accelerator program. And so those programs are aimed at, helping people launch these venture scalable products and help them with their pitch deck, help them with the whole investment lifecycle. A lot of that information really isn't publicized, I would say. It's kind of, if you know, you know. And so we're trying to, again, erase those barriers to that information and have women, people of color, Black and Indigenous people be able to have equitable access to that information and that funding.
Yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of a background on Maker. The way we do it is, we dog food a lot of the problems that we have ourselves, and we also try to gather from the forum where the big pain points are for other types of core units or contributors. And then we try to see what will have the most impact, and then we take it from there. But that's a bit our discovery for the problem. We try to keep a backlog, even if it's not super up to date, but what problem should we tackle next? And then seeing how the environment changes, we move it from there.
Can I actually ask, what are some of the top pain points that you have seen from people you've been talking to?
So it could be anything, right? Like from the governance process, for example, because most of people, this is a very trivial example, but a lot of people take 2 weeks of holidays in December. We do not have a governance cycle in December. So if you want something approved, it would take twice as long. And every November, I hate myself for not having modified that. Then January comes and it's like, okay, I'll fix it when I fix it. And then I keep repeating that year after year. So obviously it's not as important as other challenges, but that's one of the examples that could be improved.
I can relate to that challenge. It's a bit like feature freeze. We have that as like software developers. Like this is your cutoff line to get that code integrated into the code base. And I can see how that can be challenging.
Yeah. I was wondering, Pooja, in terms of once you match a candidate or a contributor with an organization, how do you make sure that anything that's follow up, do you take care of that, or it's like now you're on your own, good luck?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the current stance is, because it's like a small number of projects that we're supporting today, we are still pretty involved in helping to make sure that people are unblocked as needed, and following up with the responsible person on the organizational side to make sure that they're meeting with the person that's doing the work and giving them feedback and things like that. But I think that this is actually what we have thought about. So what we want to build in the future is moving to more, today it's like, I would say pretty centralized, like very manual. What we want to move to in the future is building a protocol that can help support a lot of this type of coordination. And one of the pieces of that, which we're so early in this that we haven't really talked about it much or even done that much investigation, but is the idea of kind of creating these support networks that are like decentralized networks of humans. Because managing work is a hard, it's like something that requires, I still believe, at least this is my opinion, I'm curious what both of you think, but requires subjective human judgment and input. It's not something you can totally automate or like have the bots take care of and help like move through a pipeline. Even if it's like arm's length or in the context of a DAO where you maybe don't have a manager, work still needs to be managed somehow, especially if we're talking about complex projects, right? And so that's something that we've been thinking about a little bit, is how could we build sort of these like decentralized communities of people that are incentivized to, provide technical support and evaluate the outcomes of work and help project manage. And that's maybe like a more scalable way that we can continue to provide that as a network in the future. But yeah, so today it's still pretty manual and our team is directly involved. But
yeah, I can relate to that. The way we manage the kind of like the incentives for Maker is that anyone could come and request for money and create a core unit very permissionlessly, and then the MKR holders need to approve them. What we realized after over a year of that system working is that it's very hard for MKR holders to direct the work. So it's very complicated to say, we want you to work on this. So it was a bit up to each core unit to decide what they were working on. And then you get people frustrating on every, both sides actually. Both the contributors and the MKR holders are frustrated. So now we're trying to flip it and go to the project-based budgeting. And yeah, we're still trying to get the details right, but that's it where we're going.
Yeah, so for that is the project-based, would that still be something that maybe the foundation or some group of like core contributors is kind of designing the projects, or how is that work management
right
happening?
So right now there's no more foundation, so it's just we dissolved a couple years ago, and the idea was we're tinkering with a lot of parameters, but one of them would be to have like a retention, a bit like universal basic income kind of thing, so to retain someone for a year or so, and then someone can like or anyone actually, but ideally like MKR holders or delegates can propose like, hey, we would like to build whatever. And then there's a bit of an RFP process where anyone can submit a project, and then they would get the funding based on the milestones, on the quality, on their reputation, etc. So that's a bit what we're trying to work with right now.
I'm actually really curious about the like evaluation process of the output and the product that the teams put out at MakerDAO. Like, what does that look like?
Right now, it doesn't have the greatest shape, unfortunately. That's actually one of the main pain points that we're trying to solve. So there's not a lot of structure right now. So it's very, I would say, unfair. So based on the noise that some accounts can create in the forum, some core units or some work would get more attention than others. Sometimes you have very complex products or milestones or lack thereof, so it's very hard to actually judge them. Then there's the human part is also hard. So I don't know, potentially we were discussing like including like anonymous voting or zero knowledge kind of thing so yeah, there's a lot of ways of solving it. We do not have the answer yet. But yeah, right now I think that it's very unfair, mainly because it depends a lot on the noise that people generate around that. And something we've been seeing too is kind of like core units trying to stay below the radar. So just I keep getting my money. I don't ask for much. I don't make a lot of noise, so I don't get noticed. So the incentives are not great yet. So yeah, working on that as well.
I would love to know that from your perspective as well.
Which part?
Like, how do you evaluate like the teams and like the products that are coming out of your organization?
Yeah, I think, so because we're trying to build a system to help coordinate this for many different groups, some of what we have been thinking of are, reputation. Definitely reputation is a piece of it. And we also, I think it feels like there is some sort of tacit agreement that milestone-based, chunking up work into milestones is one way to help de-risk projects and sort of gives you an interim checkpoint to engage with the team and see whether the work that they're doing is kind of on track or not and give feedback and so on. But yeah, I think right now we also don't have a great solution, but I think it is just, reviews of the work that people have done, some sort of questions of, like, would you be willing to work with this team again, like bi-directionally, things like that, and starting to think about how we can collect some of that information into, reputation algorithms and scores down the road.
I was wondering, Daphne, in terms of the hackathons, proof of concepts, MVPs, what's the ideal proof of concept or MVP? Like how do you design for that in terms of developing a product that eventually might become something much bigger?
Yeah, I think a lot of the hacker teams that we bring on with Blue DAO, they come into it as newbies to Web3 and to hackathons in general. And so they go into a 36-hour hackathon thinking that they need to build this like fully fleshed out product that works and it looks good. But I would say for hackathons, it's more about the idea and being able to present that idea in a way that's really engaging and interesting, and to see how you can capture your audience's attention with that idea. And so when it comes to the product at a hackathon level, it's really just about like, can you click through like one user flow and demonstrate the basic functionality of what you're trying to accomplish? And so for Key Week Labs, that was a hackathon project that we won with in ETH Mexico City. All we were showing was, that you could view this little 3D model, you could click through, you could buy it, transaction on the blockchain, and like that was it. But it's the idea of being able to incentivize creators to put out really high quality work and to, take power away from, the big AAA studios and put the power back into the little people. That's what was really enticing. And so I think as well, that's something that we'll focus on in our incubator and accelerator programs is, the idea is everything. And so you really need to solidify that first before you start building out all of these different features that you want. So that's how I see it.
I mean, in terms of the MVP, once you move forward and you decide to pursue the idea, how different is it, and how much is manual and typing very, very fast in the background, and how much is the real product out there? Like how far are you in the development of Keyweek?
So right now we're kind of in the user research and building phase. And so I think as well, when it comes to a hackathon, the features that you build don't necessarily correlate into like a real life product. Like, because at a hackathon, there's so many sponsor bounties that you want to integrate with. You want to use Polygon, you want to use Optimism, you want to use this and that. But in the real world, you wouldn't necessarily use all of those things together. And so there has to be kind of this undoing process as well. It's like you need to undo all of these, features that you just threw in there to sound flashy, and really just focus on what the user would want. So in our case, 3D creators, what they want is a very easy to use platform to sell their 3D assets and to be able to engage a community. And so that's a problem that we saw in like the game and metaverse creation industry, is that a lot of these marketplaces, they just focus on the assets themselves and not necessarily the audience and the people who are really passionate about buying this art or these assets to bring into their games. And so, that's kind of one way we're solving that.
I'm also wondering how far you are in terms of radios.
Sorry, can you say it again?
Like, how developed is the product in terms of is it a bunch of Google Sheets in the background? and
It is actually not a bunch of Google Sheets in the background. There is a database. It's a centralized database, but there is one. Yes, but we do have, I think for the next, there are a bunch of things we're experimenting with now, which are pretty manual. And I would say there is going to be a period of undoing and redoing as well when it gets there. Yeah.
And in terms of the journey for the contributor, how do you manage that? Is it that anyone, even anonymous or pseudonymously, could come in and join, or is it more like you need a profile? How?
Yeah, so today it is, you do need a profile, but that profile doesn't have to be attached to your real identity, so you can be pseudonymous. I think one of the things that will be challenging or interesting to see how it evolves is thinking about the reputation and how it plays in with identity and especially anonymity or pseudonymity, because there is value in accruing reputation to an identity over time. And that's, especially when you're thinking about it in the work context, right? Like, you want to be able to show that you've done X, Y, and Z things in the past, and that people really enjoyed working with you. It'll make it more likely that you can, win the next opportunity or whatever. And so that's something that it's kind of interesting to think about, so it maybe leans more into this like view of the future, which is more pseudonymous, where people might have like different identities in different contexts. But there still is some consolidation because it can be advantageous to have that.
Daphne, how do you take care of the blue hackers?
Sorry, what do you mean? How do I take care of them?
Like in terms of onboarding, making sure that they are happy and that they are that they feel supported.
Yeah, I think for us, because a lot of our programs are IRL, they kind of just join our community, they feel the energy, they see the talent. And so I think that's one thing that we're a bit lucky for. People go on a Blue Hacks program with us, and then they want to continue to contribute because they had such a good experience. And so for us, taking care of Blue Hackers basically just looks like getting feedback from them in person, but also through a survey, because we recognize, we're not perfect people, things can go wrong. And so we just want to have a really good overview on like what we can do better, what we can improve, and what is already going well. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
And we touched a little bit briefly on the milestones definition. I don't know if you can, you two can, how do you set any type of things that need to be done for the program to be considered successful? Is there anything more concrete there? Or
in terms of contributions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so right now we're using a really great platform. It's called Wonderverse. So shout out Wonderverse. We utilize Wonderverse to put up tasks and bounties for our hackers. So again, in terms of organizing people, like it takes a lot of work. It's like, you need to fill out this form, you need to do this, this, and this. And so Wonderverse makes it really easy for us to organize all of those tasks and to then also incentivize our hackers to complete them. So Wonderverse allows us to automate the bounties and the token airdrops to our contributors. And so any Blue hacker or contributor that is working with Blue DAO is able to be rewarded in quite an easy and automated way. And so they're able to kind of reap the benefits of what they're doing and their work directly in easy to see way. But I'm curious to see how you guys are trying to solve that problem as well.
Yeah, actually, and that what I was thinking of, the sort of like the topic of this panel, and where do DAOs fall short? So I guess I was curious with what you just said, like what sorts of tasks and bounties DAO contributors are doing, and if you are seeing for tasks that require, or like projects that require some greater amount of context or continuity or anything, like is there stuff that doesn't really work in that format, and that you need to kind of use some other format to get it done?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot to be improved in terms of how we're operating right now. We kind of bring on people who have that natural leadership skill already, so they don't really need that much hand-holding, but obviously we want to be inclusive of everyone, and so that's something we're definitely still working on. But for example, we have like an amazing Blue Hacks program full of developers, and so a task might look like writing a tutorial to build a full stack dApp for Polygon or something, and they would just submit that either article or even a video through Wonderverse, and that would be the proof of their contribution. Basically, that's how it works.
Yeah, I've been researching into grants for a while now. I think there are very good software that should be coming out soon, or that it's already out there. But running a grants program is very, very hard. It's very time consuming, and sometimes it's not as rewarding. So there are a lot of phases, from attracting contributors that want to participate into the grant, to filtering them, to setting all these milestones. So it takes a lot of work from the people managing the grants. So I think that's a huge challenge for a DAO. It's more like, okay, who's running the grant? Do they have the capacity to do it? How are they going to do it? And then anything that has to do with measuring ROI. So it's very easy to shut down a grants program, and maybe some things could have value, 3-5 years down the line, and you killed it just because it wasn't profitable from day zero. So yeah, it's not easy, and there are a lot of challenges ahead.
Are you guys having challenges with tracking ad hoc tasks? So I feel like all DAOs pretty much operate like startups. And so you're wearing multiple different hats. And so, I may be leading the Blue Hacks team, but maybe I'm also taking a partnerships call and trying to get this organization on board with what we're doing. Are you guys having any challenges with tracking those like ad hoc tasks that maybe don't make sense to track at like a bounty board or something like that?
So the way we distributed the work is through this core unit. So it's more up to each core unit to track their tasks, their contributors, hire, fire. So anything that has to do with tasks, and so that's on the side of the accountability. But then something that we've seen happening a lot is that for example, we don't have a marketing core unit. So anything that has to do with marketing is like it's a bit everyone, whenever you can, and you're not really responsible. And there are a lot of tasks that kind of fall within the cracks, and then it's hard to actually address them, mainly because it's not your area of expertise. So tracking tasks we don't do. We have like more roadmaps that are a bit larger, but then it's up really to the token holders to hold us accountable. Which sometimes they do not have the bandwidth to do as well. So that's some more issues to consider from the governance perspective. Are the token holders or the voters, do they have the capabilities to actually evaluate everything that we're putting? Sometimes it's a lot of voting for very different topics in very different industries. So they need to have almost a full-time team working for them to actually analyze each proposal if you want it to be successful. And that's not where we are right now, and I don't even know if that's to be expected. It's more like, how do we solve this issue? Is that the right way or not?
Yeah, I think it's really cool what MakerDAO in particular is doing, because I think it's like one of the purest experiments in how do you build like a very hard protocol and keep it growing without like a centralized company. Yeah, which is really hard.
Yeah. I think it's hard to count because, as I was saying, it's up to each core unit, but more or less we're like over 150 contributors in Maker. So I haven't checked the expenses, but we're in the millions of DAI per year. So we're almost running into the problems that you would find in any very flat, disorganized organization, I guess. So it's interesting to see how we're solving it, and we're working on that right now. But it would take another hour or so to just get the basics. So I'll spare you the details.
Yeah, okay, maybe a topic for another time. But I'm definitely curious how the core units also are formed, and how do you onboard someone into a core unit? I guess how do you find the right person to join, and is it very open, or that?
It is quite open, so it's permissionless in that sense, and anyone can come. For the last year and a half, we were running an incubation program, basically to help teams to navigate governance, and so they're the best, or well, not the best, but they're very good at what they do. So we help them with everything else, defining milestones, defining mission, vision, strategy. So we've been doing that for a while. We onboarded several teams, but any team can come and say, hey, we want to do marketing. Would be an example. We want to do marketing for Maker. We're requesting this budget. We're planning on doing this, and this. These are our credentials. And then this would go into the governance cycle, and they would get voted in or not. So that's a bit the very high-level view.
Can I ask a bit about the contrary? What does the offboarding process look like? So someone who's not maybe living up to what they need to contribute to.
So right now we have this. You get to update your budget every year. So potentially they could vote you down and kind of slowly sunset you, for a lack of a better word. But anyone could come and propose, hey, I don't think that Daphne is doing a good job. We should avoid her and her team, and cut every single fund. We have seen in the past that those proposals come from unknown accounts. So potentially there is some interaction to solve there as well, in terms of how people perceive each other, and do you really want to to actively say, hey, I think that this other department is not doing their job properly. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we haven't really had to explore that problem yet, because I think people in our DAO are like either really passionate about it and they continue to contribute, or they just like naturally like fizzle off on their own. And so that's probably a challenge that we will need to address in the future. And so I will definitely be asking you about that.
We have 2 minutes left, so I don't know if you wanted to say something, like any closing comments or remarks.
I guess maybe one thing that I would be curious to hear from maybe we can all go around and say, but it's just, where is this sort of model of decentralized coordination doing really well, or like what do we think is kind of the promise that it can enable? I guess there's some obvious things, but sort of curious, like what is your unique take on it?
I think for us at Blue DAO, the main benefit would be to, again, uplift underrepresented groups. And so with our Blue Hacks program, we're able to bring people into Web3 who would have no other means to get into this space. And so when you decentralize that process and be able to bring people from all over the world contributing into one product, you're able to actually start setting up leadership teams in different areas and have them start building products for their communities. And I think that's one thing that I want to see more of in Web3 is, local communities building for themselves rather than, conglomerates from other countries building for them. And so that's definitely what I see as the promise of like decentralized product development. Yeah.
For me, it's even larger. I think that remote work is like one huge form of leverage that a company can get. And if you structure your organization properly, remote work can give you like massive leverage to actually be much more effective. And at the same time, if you do not structure your company properly, it will show when people are not showing up to the office. And I think that the same thing will happen with decentralized organizations. That's because they're much more open and permeable. Once that you have a good structure and the good framework to actually be able to handle the in and out, we're going to see again massive leverage versus centralized organizations that do not have these tools to move forward. So I'm really excited about this. All right, we ran out of time. Where can people find you?
So I'm on Twitter as Pooja_ETH.
I'm on Twitter as well, Daphne, and Blue DAO with a 3 instead of an E as well, if you want to check it out.
All right, I'm 0x7U4N. So
serious?
Good luck finding me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.